Dear Grade 12, I'm Mrs. V. Ramla. Welcome to the Junior Taki Winter School for Grade 12s. There will be a series of videos which will be live streamed in the next few weeks on Junior Taki Online. Please use this material as revision and also look at all the Grade 12 content in Life Sciences on Junior Taki Online. In this video, I will be showing you the importance of the exam guidelines. Now, before we even look at the importance of the exam guidelines and how to use an exam guideline, let's look at the topics in Paper 1. Here are your Paper 1 topics. You will have from Term 1 work, Reproduction in Invertebrates, 8 marks. Human Reproduction, 41 marks. Term 2 work, Responding to the Environment, 54 marks. Term 3 work, Responding to the Environment, 13 marks. And then from Term 2 and 3, Endocrine and Homeostasis, 34 marks. That gives you a total of 150 for 2.5 hours. Your paper will be made up of Section A, 50 marks, Section B, 100 marks. Now, in Section A, you'll be tested with multiple choice questions, terminology, column statements, and matching items. Section B, you'll have a variety of questions. You'll have question 2 and 3, 50 marks each, and here you can get a variety of questions. Here you can also get your level 4 questions, which will be about 5% of your paper. Right, now let's go to the exam guidelines. Now, the exam guidelines, from its name, guides you on what you must prepare, what content you must prepare, and the detail of the content for your exam. Now, if you look at the different sections, it will tell you Reproduction in Invertebrates, 8 marks. And this is all the content that you must know. So it says you must know reproductive strategies in animals, in maximizing reproductive success in different environments, and then it says using relevant examples. So you can be tested on the examples. You can be asked examples in your exam. So you must know external fertilization, internal fertilization, ovipary, ovovivipary, vivipary, an amniotic egg, precocial and nutritional, and parental care. These guidelines also help you with your spelling. The more you look at the words, you will remember the spelling. Human reproduction is 41 marks. Here you must know for the introduction, a schematic outline of the human life cycle to show the role of meiosis, mitosis, and fertilization. You must know the structure of the male reproductive system using a diagram. You must know the functions of the testes, epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, Cowper's gland, penis, and urethra. The structure of the female reproductive system, again using a diagram. You must know the function of the ovary, the fallopian tube, the uterus lined by the endometrium, the cervix, the vagina with its external opening, and the vulva. You must know the structure of the ovary using a diagram showing the primary follicle, the Graafian follicle, and the corpus luteum. Right, puberty. You must know the main changes that occur in male characteristics during puberty under the influence of testosterone. You must know the main changes that occur in female characteristics during puberty under the influence of estrogen. They tell you the formation of gametes is gametogenesis. When male gametes are formed, it's called spermatogenesis, and when female gametes are formed, it's called oogenesis. Look at the spelling. And then I would definitely please learn spermatogenesis from this exam guidelines. Highlight it. So, spermatogenesis, under the influence of testosterone, the diploid cells in the seminiferous tubules of the testes undergoes meiosis to form haploid sperm cells. Highlight it, learn it from the exam guidelines. This is all you could be tested. Structure of a sperm using a diagram. In here, you must know the functions of the part of the sperm, the acrosome, the head with the haploid nucleus, the middle portion, the neck with the mitochondria, and the tail. Here also, please highlight oogenesis. This is all that you need to know for oogenesis in your exam guidelines. Now, highlight it, learn it from this exam guidelines. This is all you will be asked in your exams. So, oogenesis. The diploid cells in the ovary undergo mitosis to form numerous follicles. At the onset of puberty and under the influence of FSH, one cell in the follicle enlarges and undergoes meiosis. Of the 4 cells that are produced, Only one survives to form a mature haploid ovum, and this occurs in a monthly cycle. You must then know the structure of an ovum using a diagram. You must know the functions of the different parts of an ovum, the jelly layer, the haploid nucleus, and the cytoplasm. Now, menstrual cycle. They tell you here that the menstrual cycle includes the uterine and the ovarian cycle. In the ovarian cycle, you must know the development of the Graafian follicle, ovulation, and formation of the corpus luteum. In the uterine cycle, you must know changes that take place in the thickness of the endometrium and menstruation. You must also know hormonal control of the menstrual cycle, of both these cycles, ovarian and uterine cycle, by referring to the action of FSH, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone. Then, very important again, please make sure you know the negative feedback mechanism that involves FSH and progesterone. This is something that you get tested on a lot. Make sure you know in the negative feedback mechanism, the words that you must have here is high amounts, low amounts, and that's how you know it's a negative feedback mechanism. And this negative feedback mechanism controls the production of ova. Then, you must know the definition of copulation and fertilization, the process of fertilization, and then the development of the zygote into an embryo, morula, blastula or blastocyst, and then to the fetus. You must know the definition of implantation, the role of estrogen and progesterone in maintaining a pregnancy, and the structure of the developing fetus in the uterus using a diagram. So they tell you, you must know this work with diagrams. You must know the functions of the following parts: the chorion, the chorionic villi, amnion, amniotic cavity and amniotic fluid, umbilical cord including umbilical artery and vein, and then the placenta. So that was quite a lot on the reproduction. Now, an even bigger section is responding to the environment for 54 marks. Now, let's look at the introduction. You must know the nervous system involves nerves, the endocrine system involves hormones, and these two components help the human respond to the environment. Here they even tell you the need for a nervous system. There's the two important points. Make sure that you know that. Highlight it. So when they ask you the need for a nervous system in humans, you've got your answers. The need for a nervous system in a human is to react to stimuli, coordination of various parts of the body. You must know the brain and the spinal cord are protected by meninges. In the brain, you must know the different location and functions of the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the corpus callosum, medulla oblongata, and the spinal cord. For the peripheral nervous system, you must know the location and function of the peripheral nervous system, which is made up of cranial and spinal nerves. Autonomic nervous system, the location and function of the autonomic nervous system using this, which is made up of the sympathetic and parasympathetic sections. And then let's look at the functioning of a nerve. We know nerves carry signals to and from all parts of the body that are made up of neurons. You must know the sensory or the motor neuron, functions of the sensory and the motor neuron. And the structure and functions of the parts of the sensory and the motor neuron, you must know using diagrams. You must know the nucleus, the cell body, cytoplasm, myelin sheath, axon, and dendrites. Right. Let's look at the reflex arc. You must know the definition of a reflex action and a reflex arc. In the structure of the reflex arc, you must know functions of the receptor, the sensory neuron, the dorsal root of the spinal nerve, the spinal cord, interneuron, motor neuron, ventral root of the spinal nerve, and the effector. You must know the functioning of a simple reflex action using an example. You must know the significance of a reflex action and the significance of synapses. All this will help you with the detail of your content for your notes. The disorders, we only look at cause and symptoms of Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis. Receptors. You must know the functions of receptors, neurons, and effectors in responding to the environment. You must know the body responds to various stimuli such as light, sound, touch, temperature, pain, pressure, and chemicals, and you don't need to know the structure and names of these receptors, except for the ones in the eye and the ear. Right, the eye and the ear. You must know the structure and functions of the part of the human eye using a diagram. You must know binocular vision and its importance. You must know the changes that occur in the human eye for each of the following using diagrams. Accommodation, pupillary mechanism. You must know the nature and treatment of short-sightedness, long-sightedness, astigmatism, and cataracts. Let's look at the ear. You must know the structure of the human ear, functions of the different parts using a diagram. You must know hearing. You must include the role of the organ of Corti without details of the structure. Balance. You must include the role of the macula and the cristae without details of the structure. And then you must know causes and treatment of middle ear infections, which they tell you here is the use of grommets. Deafness, you use hearing aids and cochlear implants. Let's look at the endocrine system. You must know the difference between an endocrine system and an exocrine gland, a definition of a hormone. Then you must be able to locate each of the glands using a diagram. You must know the hormones they secrete and the functions. So hypothalamus produces ADH, pituitary, growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, prolactin. Thyroid gland, thyroxine. Islets of Langerhans in the pancreas, insulin, glucagon. Adrenal gland, adrenaline, aldosterone. Ovary, estrogen, progesterone, testes, testosterone. Now, let's look at homeostasis. There is the definition of homeostasis. This is where I will learn the definition. Process of maintaining a constant internal environment within narrow limits despite changes that take place internally or externally. You must know the conditions that within the cells depend on the conditions in the tissue fluid. What factors must be controlled in the tissue fluid? Carbon dioxide, glucose, salt, water concentration, temperature, pH must be kept constant in the tissue fluid. Let's look at the negative feedback mechanisms that you must know regarding thyroxine levels, blood glucose levels, blood carbon dioxide levels, water balance, and salt. The disorders you must know is caused by imbalance of levels of thyroxine, is goiter, blood glucose level, diabetes mellitus. Now, thermoregulation, very important. You must know the structure of the skin using a diagram with emphasis on the parts involved in thermoregulation. You must know the role of the following in the negative feedback mechanism that controls temperature. You must know sweating, vasodilation, vasoconstriction. And the last part is plant hormones. You must just know the general functions of auxin, gibberellins, abscisic acid, the control of weeds using plant hormones, the role of auxin in geotropism, phototropism, and plant defense mechanisms by the use of chemicals and thorns. So as you learn something, tick off the work. Also look at the words constantly. Look at your exam guidelines constantly so that you can learn the spelling. Spelling is also very important. Thank you for watching me and joining me and watching this video on the exam guidelines. I hope you learned a lot. Keep your exam guidelines close to you whenever you are preparing for your exams. Join me and watch all my other videos as well.